So the Republicans have been on one this week. From Bondi throwing another one of her tantrums on Capitol Hill to Mike Lawler having the audacity to try to step to Hakeem Jeffries over a shutdown the Republicans caused, all while trying to strip hardworking Americans of their health care yet again. You know I'm going to break it all down for you, but first, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you'll be the first to know when we post. This is Pragmotiv News, and it's your boy Trey. So take a look at some video the Trump administration and the mainstream media doesn't want you to see of what ICE is really doing in cities across this country. So in a logical world, someone should be held accountable for this. It obviously should be Trump, but of course this spineless Republican-controlled Congress won't call that lizard into the chambers to testify. So we have to settle for Bondi. But she's not even competent enough to answer a simple question from Senator Dick Durbin of Illinois. Take a look.
Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House about this?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member.
I noticed that. What's the secret? Why do you want to keep this secret? The American people don't know the rationale behind the deployment of National Guard troops in my state. The word is, and I think it's been confirmed by the White House, they are going to transfer Texas National Guard units to the state of Illinois. What's the rationale for that?
Yeah, Chairman, as you shut down the government, you voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here, our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump. And currently, the National Guard are on the way to Chicago. If you're not going to protect your citizens, President Trump will.
I've been on this committee for more than 20 years. That's the kind of testimony you expect from this administration. A simple question as to whether or not they had a legal rationale for deploying National Guard troops becomes grounds for a personal attack. I think it's a legitimate question. It's my responsibility. She refuses to answer as to whether she had any conversation with the White House about deploying national troops to my state. That's an indication, I'm afraid, where we are politically in this place.
The blatant arrogance, incompetence, lack of morality should make all Americans ashamed to be represented by this government. And then I wonder, how can Bondi even breathe with Trump's hand stuck so far up her ass that all she can do is spout rehearsed talking points that don't even make sense regarding the topic being discussed? I mean, Durbin could have asked her something simple, Like, how was your drive to the Capitol today? And her ass would have responded, it was good, but it would have been better if you loved the roads as much as you hate President Trump. Your party shut down the government, blah, 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 blah. Why don't these people hold them accountable? I would have interrupted with the quickness and said, I didn't ask you all that. I asked you if you communicated with the White House about sending troops to Illinois. Is that question too advanced for you to understand, Bondi? Should I say it slower for you? This is how you have to talk to these morons. You have to match their energy. It's time for Democrats to get off this high ground bullshit, because you can't get anywhere with people who are this unserious by trying to be serious. So speaking of matching energy, Mike Lawler had the audacity to try to step to Hakeem Jeffries in an effort to make himself relevant and grandstand to please his daddy Trump. But I think he got a little more than what he bargained for. So take a look.
We got a 1-year extension. Why don't we sign on right now?
Let me ask you a question. Did you
Why don't we sign on
get
right
permission
now?
from your boss?
Why don't we sign on right now?
Did your boss, Donald Trump?
You can easily extend the ACA right now.
Did your boss, Donald Trump,
He's
give
not
you
my
permission?
boss.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not. And by the way,
So let me ask you a
why
question.
did you vote to
Let me
shut
ask
the
you a
government
question.
down?
You
Why
know
did
I
you
didn't-
vote to shut it
Let
down?
me ask you a question.
For years, you always lectured about
making-
how we need to
you're
keep the
making
government open.
You're making a show of this to
No,
make
it's
yourself
sad.
relevant.
It's sad. You could easily sign on to
You're
this.
embarrassing
You
yourself
could
right
sign
now.
on to this. The only
You're
embarrassment
chasing
here is
clout.
you.
You're an
You
embarrassment.
could sign on to the bill.
Let me ask you a question.
You have 4 Democrats on here.
Let me ask
Why
you a
won't you
question.
sign on
Let me ask
to
you a
it?
question.
It's a
Let
clean
me ask you
extension
a
for 1
question.
year.
You voted for the one big
Clean
ugly bill,
extension.
correct?
I voted for a
The
tax cut
largest-
bill that gave the
the
largest
largest
tax
cut-
cut
the
to
largest-
Americans in history,
the
including, by
largest-
the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that?
You're embarrassing
Do you
yourself right
you want
now.
to cut the standard deduction in
The
half? Is that
largest
what you
cut
wanted
to
to do?
Medicaid in
No, we
American
voted
history.
out
You
waste,
voted for that.
fraud, and abuse, by the
You
way.
voted
Tom DiNapoli, the
for a
Democratic
permanent-
controller of New York,
Let me ask you a question.
pointed out that $1.2 billion
If you're
were
gonna-
wasted.
Listen, you're not going
Wasted.
to talk. You're not going to talk to me.
Wasted
You're not
on
going to talk to me
fraud
and talk
and
over
non-New
me
York residents
because you don't
getting
want to
paid.
hear what I have to say.
Oh, I'm listening.
So why
Go
don't you
ahead.
just keep your mouth shut?
Oh,
because you
is
showed
that-
up.
is that the way to
you
talk?
showed up. You showed up.
Yeah.
And so you voted for this one
I
big
signed
ugly
on
bill.
to this. You can extend it right
a
now.
permanent extension of massive tax breaks.
First of all, he just screwed himself by saying Trump isn't his boss, because we all know that will not pass Trump's loyalty test. And on top of that, this weasel has the nerve to say to Jeffries, is that the way to talk? Sounding like a beta male imitating a fucking soccer mom. And for the record, I don't go around using terms like beta male. Because unlike the Republicans, I'm secure enough in my manhood that I don't need to go around putting other men down to make myself feel better. But I just told y'all we need to match energy. And since Republican men are always so concerned about, quote, masculinity, and have this weird obsession about what's between other people's legs, I couldn't miss the opportunity to point out that hypocrisy. So now take a look at what Hakeem had to say about this confrontation.
We conclude this press conference, and I hear that Mike Lawler, who's a complete and total fraud, is waiting outside to step to me, apparently, right, about the Affordable Care Act. And I'm like, this guy? So, you know, I think some of my team would have probably preferred that I just ignore him. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not the one. Don't come for me unless I send for you. And I did not send for this malignant clown. And so we, you know, had a conversation. But you're right. I haven't seen the video yet, but there was a moment that I think he thought he was confronting Beltway Hakeem, but he saw Brooklyn Hakeem. And it definitely took a lot of restraint for it not to go down any further. than
We
it
need
did.
more Brooklyn.
Yes, we do. We need more Brooklyn Hakeem. We need more Jasmine Crockett energy. Hell, me and Cameron will gladly lend our 504 savagery to help y'all with messaging, because it's time for the party to stop letting these spoiled brats, who obviously were never told no by their parents, get away with all of this bullshit. So, I say good for Hakeem. I would have went even harder though, but that's probably just the New Orleans in me. So that's all for today, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe, and follow at Pragmotiv News everywhere to stay pragmotivated. Also, remember, you can find us across major platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and iHeartRadio so that you can listen to us even when you're out there on the go. So head on over there, give us a follow, leave a review. It really helps us out. Until next time, peace.